So I'd like for you to introduce yourself and your company or your organization that you work for and share your job story with the students. Give us a little bit of background of why you chose your career.
Hi, my name is Tony Hill. I'm a vice president at Trivest Partners. Trivest Partners is one of the oldest private equity groups in the United States. What we do is we make investments in family and founder-owned businesses to help them grow and get to the next level. What I do at Trivest as the head of the business development department is I help go out and find family and founder-owned businesses that are looking for an investment from our firm. I do that in a number of ways, but mainly it's the relationships. So I attend conferences, I stay in touch with local and regional lawyers and CPAs and other business owners to get the word out. And they connect me in turn with businesses that are looking for capital. And we assess those opportunities, and the ones that are a good fit with our philosophy and our business model, we make investments in them.
That sounds like a really cool job. How did you decide to do this or choose this as a career?
So my background is pretty diverse, probably more so than the average private equity business development professional. I've done a bunch of different things throughout my career. But one common thread across most of those jobs is that they've always had a nexus to mergers and acquisitions. And mergers and acquisitions, as many of you probably know, is when one company buys or makes an investment or combines with another company. So in different ways and shapes and forms, I've always operated within the mergers and acquisitions industry. And what appealed to me about joining Trivest Partners was that, as opposed to a corporation that acquires a smaller company and gobbles it up, Trivest is about preserving the legacy of the small businesses that we invest in. So for us, it's not just a matter of making an investment so much as learning about that business, learning what was important to the founder and what the founder wants the legacy of that business to be, and making sure that philosophically we are on the same page in terms of how we're going to take that business to the next level.
That's very interesting. So you touched upon what you do mostly, but can you explain to the students what does a typical day look like? I don't know if now it's a little different due to the nature of our current situation with the pandemic, or has it changed at all? Do you want to speak to that a little bit?
Absolutely. The great thing about my job is that it's actually very unpredictable. Every day will start one way, and you never really know how it might end. Certainly, certain things are pretty consistent. So I do a lot of phone calls. I catch up with a lot of people in the business. I read about what's happening out there. I go to conferences. However, oftentimes my day can take different turns. I could get a call randomly from a business owner who's interested in meeting or having a phone call to learn more about Trivest, and where I can learn more about his business. And occasionally, it could be a great fit. It could be unexpected. There might be a sense of urgency for whatever reason. Maybe this business owner is keen to retire, or maybe he's looking to, perhaps close a transaction before year end. And we have to react to that. We have to be nimble, and we have to be able to, address his questions, and at the same time, quickly figure out if this is the kind of business that would be a logical investment for our firm.
That's really interesting. So you are constantly networking and meeting new people and doing things of that nature. When you, during your educational career path, can you explain a little bit about what that looked like? Did you always know you wanted to go into business, or what was your major? How did you navigate your educational path?
So when I was in high school, I actually wanted to become a journalist, and I started down that path in college. And after 2 years of journalism, I kind of realized that I didn't love the career path that journalism offered. But what I realized is that I loved what journalism was all about, which is speaking with people, learning things, investigating. And I quickly came to realize that I could apply all of those passions in a number of other areas, but business was the one where a lot of my other skills and interests really coalesced. And building companies, building teams, building business models. That really appealed to me. So halfway through my education at the University of Florida, I switched majors and I got a concentration in finance. I eventually went back to business school again to get a master's of business administration, which is very valuable for me. I think that I wanted to go deeper into certain subject areas, specifically finance, and how projects and companies are financed. How do they grow? How do they decide if they're going to acquire another business or perhaps undertake a big expensive capital project? So I went back to school for a master's degree, and after that, I embarked upon my journey in finance and eventually got into mergers and acquisitions. And for the most part, that's where I spent the rest of my career.
Very interesting. So let's see. Can you talk about one of your first jobs, and can you maybe tell us something positive or negative, either way, that you took away from one of your first jobs? And like, what was it? Like, what was your job?
So my first real job was working for a large multinational conglomerate. And it was, incidentally, it was based abroad on top of everything else. It was in Germany. And I was brought on as an intern. But eventually, that internship turned into a full-time offer. And I worked there for a couple years. What I learned there, I guess the main thing that I learned there was the importance of learning. And an advantage that worked for me in those early days was on a specific project where I went kind of above and beyond what was expected of my role. And I studied a specific, in this case it was a software platform, that I realized there was little in-house expertise about. And by kind of going outside the expectations of my role and taking it upon myself to become an expert in this special software system, it gave me a huge leg up for advancements in that company. And it really made me indispensable to some degree but in doing that.
Okay, so this program specifically is geared towards 8th grade students. So I want to take you back to your 8th grade self. And I want you to think about what advice you would give your younger self, maybe, because in 8th grade you're thinking about high school and you're thinking about, what's coming up in the years to come, maybe graduating, going to college. What advice would you give your younger self?
The advice I would give my younger self, if I could go back in time to middle school, would be to be more efficient with my time. I realize now in hindsight that I could have been learning and doing and working a lot more than I was. And, examples of things I could have been doing, I could have been starting a business in 8th grade and beginning to learn what it's like to, build a business model and sell things and make money and organize and plan. I could have been more healthy. I could have been exercising, practicing sports more. I guess that's more common. But, as you get older, the amount of discretionary time you have begins to really dwindle. But when you're young, and when I was young, I certainly could have been a lot more efficient and done a lot more things that would have helped me, not just in high school, but certainly for college and for the rest of my career. So think about that the next time you have to decide between, what you're going to do after school, and just realize that, a lot of great businesses were started by kids who were in middle school and high school who went on to be extremely successful. Could be you.
That's true. Very true. And the last question, kind of just to, sum everything up and give some, I want you to give the students some advice about what, advice on if someone wanted to be in your field, what advice would you give them?
So the advice I would give somebody who wants to work in private equity, and specifically private equity business development, which is what I do, is to work at being well-rounded. I think that's good advice in general for everybody. But as it relates to my role, it's very helpful for me to, of course, have a technical understanding of how deals and investments work. When a founder speaks to me, he wants to know, how do we value his business? What are the different things that are important to us that allow us to arrive at a calculation for what that business is worth and how much we would invest in it, et cetera, et cetera. But by virtue of the fact that I deal with a lot of business owners and other referral sources who are connecting us with business owners, it's very important to be memorable and to be respected and liked. And I think that what I'm getting at is that soft skills are very important as well. The ability to speak with confidence and to have empathy and emotional intelligence. These soft skills are things that in many careers, but certainly mine, can be more important even than the technical side of things. Because at the end of the day, people don't always remember what you say, but they usually will remember how you make them feel. So in business development, I try to hold myself to a pretty high standard in terms of being memorable and liked.
That's great advice. So Junior Achievement would like to thank you today for taking the time to, be part of this program, and we really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. It has to be here. So.